Welcome to Leaf for Review. This week we're going to be smoking and reviewing the Arturo Fuente Don Carlos Double Robusto.
All right, so I'm gonna pass these out here.
Dive into these bad boys. I'm ready.
Like a piece of candy.
Best thing. I love it.
These in our Halloween bag.
Thank you, Arturo Fuente, if you ever watch this video, for finally putting barcodes on your cigars for us retailers. Thank you. We appreciate it. Who wants to introduce this cigar? Give us a little bit on the
Makeup.
Let's talk about filler binder wrapper, get into some notes here, and then let's slice and dice these bad boys and jump into them.
Well, I tell you what, I really like the wrap on it. Velvety.
Yeah,
It's funky.
It's got a little oil, a little oily. Not like big heavy Maduro, but
It's got that toothy Cameroon.
I like their bands too. They really
Especially-
stand out.
especially this one, they put that extra detail in there.
Yeah, it's good. They always have nice bands.
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
So yeah, I think we're working with this week. We've got vintage Dominican filler binder, and then on the outside we've got this
North African.
and African Cameroon wrapper.
That little nice cocoa-y smell to it right there.
It's always got a little sweetness.
I get a little funk.
It's got some funk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dry-
but it's a good funk.
Dry
It's
pull's
not
got
like-
some funk too. Dry pull's got like a little date flavor.
Mm-hmm.
All right, should we spark these bad boys up? Dive into this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Get some day on that.
Hopefully Seth doesn't have any technical difficulties this week.
Notice we don't give Seth a lighter.
Yeah, notice he has to just sit there with a cigar the whole
I
time.
didn't come prepared.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, Danny, doing the cedar stick.
Trying to be fancy. Thought I'd
You
try it
didn't wear
out.
a tux this week.
I know.
Using the old stirrer stick, eh?
Well, since we just lit these up, why don't we talk about some of these accessories we're using and dive into that a little bit. Obviously, we're using, we've got the Calibri Quasar table lighter again. I don't think anybody used the cutter. We got the cutter.
On point this week.
Great cutter. Pretty artistically designed. Both V and guillotine cut. Up, down, little reservoir. I have noticed that if you do smoke quite a bit, that this reservoir doesn't hold quite a lot.
Fills up real fast.
But-
Especially those torpedo tips get stuck in there
They do get stuck.
all the time.
But
so
I-
only downfall.
I will say though that it's a lot of heft to it, a lot of weight. Very cool looking, you know.
On both pieces.
Very artistic. Feels good in the hand.
The whole set, I mean, if you dive into the whole set with, we obviously don't have the ashtray sitting out, but the ashtray looks exactly like these two, but it's heavy duty. Looks nice. This has got more of a glossy finish. That's more of like a, I don't even want to say matte. It's got a texture to it. So it just kind of grabs on a little bit.
Kind of like what we talked
a
about
Cameroon
last week.
wrap.
Is it gives you
Yeah,
it gives you the V cut on this gives you a very very deep V. Doesn't hurt the cap on it. That still holds together and has great integrity, but it really opens up every single layer of that cigar to give it.
I haven't even looked on this one. You know, a couple years ago now. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's got that. So what they used to do, the V cutters and some of the cheap ones to do this, they come down to a point.
Right.
These
are
now
recessed.
they redesigned it. They did
Yep.
it the other way, so the
Yep.
sharp blades up instead of coming out of point, because that point always ended up breaking and
The
then
cigar.
the
Blow it apart.
well, that and the point ended up getting broken or dull or chipped
Yeah.
or whatever, and then it's pretty much damn near useless.
His cutter is pretty interesting because it's more of a different design.
Yeah, V-cut from Lotus. The thing I really like about it is that the blade, the cutting blade edge is serrated. So it can handle the dish, and it can handle a fairly large gauge cigar. But once you have it squared away and you close on that with the serrations, it grabs a hold of it and it's going to cut where it cuts. Gives a nice sharp cut. You know, I really enjoy a V-cut, especially on, 50 and over. And, it's got a good mouthfeel, I think.
Yeah, it was nice. Lotus a couple years ago did a redesign because their original serrations were these really long, pointy teeth. And
Toothy.
they broke all
Yeah.
the time. They did a redesign a couple years ago and so much better. So much better.
It's a great cut.
Talk about Seth and I use this
I used
Zycar Exo cutter.
Zycar Exo today.
So cool
Straight
looking.
cut. It is cool. Little donut. It's got some gears on the inside. It's a nice smooth.
Fits
Operation.
The only downside of that cutter I've ever found is very hard to see where you're cutting.
It's got a heavy blade
Like,
on
you
it
gotta,
too.
like-
I mean, it is just a heavy
That's
bevel
it.
blade. I mean, that thing is crazy.
Beautiful
It
cut.
does a great cut though. Nice clean.
Those are neat.
So what do we got diving in here? We're all about a millimeter in.
Mine opened up with some pepper. I get a good bit of tingle on the tongue.
It's got that classic Fuente pepperiness to it for sure.
Especially this
Super
one.
peppery on those first few. It seems like it maybe laid off just a little, but whew.
Not necessarily a kick to the face for me, but it's there.
You notice it.
Oh yeah,
Grab you by the
but it's
pooper.
pleasant.
Well, it's interesting to go from the Robusto, which I smoked earlier today, to this being and it's just this is definitely a step up from it in some flavor profiling.
I really like, this Cameroon wrap. I just like the way it looks. Look, it's very crinkly, if you will. I like the way it feels. I like the way it looks.
I don't even know would toothy be the right word?
Toothy,
for this?
yeah,
It's
toothy,
definitely
yeah.
toothy.
It's got a velvety look to it, almost a velvety feel.
Instead of being just like that, just solid, almost
Smooth.
like paper-like. It's got some veins. It's got some
You can see the leaf.
bump, but it doesn't like
Yeah,
even
it's
this
It's like
far.
a homework paper
I
pulled
mean,
out of the bottom of your
Even
backpack.
this far. It's an even
Yeah,
better.
there was
even
a lot of
In a
those
good
in my
way.
backpack. No, mine were never good. This is how old? Oops.
third grade.
Age 4 years. Yeah.
This was from first semester. We're into third. What the
Yeah.
heck?
You get a lot of leatheriness in it.
I think that plays back to that Cameroon wrapper.
Mm-hmm.
See, my thing is, I don't know where, why, it's got that pepperiness. Because, when I think Dominican, I don't think peppery. I'm thinking peppery, I'm thinking Nicaragua all the way, generally.
Depending on which ones you get of the Nicaraguan, yes, I agree with you. This one's really spicy.
Yeah, I get-
spice to it.
It's to me, that's that classic Fuente.
Fuente,
It has that peppery spice to it. All the other flavors combined with it, but I just always get that from the Fuentes. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with Fuente is it's always, not everything, but all their core products are very straightforward. Like, I don't notice, I don't know if you guys would agree, disagree, there's not a lot of complexity here. It's got some flavors forefront here, and I don't,
Pleasant
it
retro.
it doesn't change too much as we,
Well, consistent.
it's always consistent. That's kind of the name of their
You know you're gonna pick one up and it's gonna be a damn good smoke.
You always know. Oh, Fuente's always a go-to. If there's something that I'm not familiar with or I don't know in a humidor, Fuente's always an easy go-to. You're going to get a solid quality cigar.
Well, and we we talked last week about what we were thinking about picking. I think we kind of nailed it here on the whole medium body. I think we're right there. We tossed around a couple other ideas, and we spoke a couple other things, and just kind of ended up, late this week on this, and I think it's worked. For what we were looking for, I think it worked out perfect.
I think also this is a good when you're leveling up, going from the Connecticut, it's a very light cigar, going into a very medium cigar like this, and that sets you up for the next step, which would be a very nice Maduro. And that's some of those Maduros are heavy hitters, but they're really good, a lot of flavor, and definitely a step up from this. But this gives you a good entry.
It's one of those things too, we did the Connecticut to the medium, but most people, you got to get, a handful of Connecticut's under your belt, have cigars a little bit more regularly, A lot of people, and we talked about last time, being a little overwhelmed in the humidor, just kind of grabbing something, and, this isn't necessary for the intermediate, occasional person. This isn't bad. For the beginner, I wouldn't say it's not for a beginner.
I will say, you said it's the same. I mean, you do have that, classic Fuente pepper to it. But there are some other flavors going on to it. Is it super complex? No, it's not. It's very an easy smoke. It's a nice smoke. I think it's pretty consistent all the way through. It does build a little bit. But, I think for the most part, I would say it's a nice medium.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good looking ash so far too.
I just was thinking that. They took a puff, and I'm like, we gotta talk about this ash. It's got that
nice white.
Yeah, it's not like solid white like you get with some, but like a light gray, just solid. I'm not worried about this falling off into my drink, although I might do that anyway.
Yeah, kiss of death right there.
Yeah, weekly I'm going to talk about ashing in my drink. Weekly.
Eventually it's going to happen.
It's right here. I got to put it next to Seth or something, and then I won't ash it. Then he might ash it, but.
Speaking of consistency, we pretty much all have the same burn line.
Mm-hmm.
It's not razor sharp, but they all look identical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't tend to.
Kind of goes with the wrap.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys use the torches and that to light yours. I use a cedar, a little bit of a change up. Some people don't like that butane, and I just figured, I might as well try it. Try it once and see something different. It's a little bit slower at starting.
Takes a little more patience.
It's patience. It's finicky.
Yeah.
They can be very finicky. Plus, you get all that ash falling off the cedar.
Getting a good
finicky,
flame on it.
But I will say that afterburn and the smoke coming off of it, it's like a nice cedar incense.
It's not something I want to do every single time I light up a cigar, but every here and there, for me, it's a tradition thing. They've been doing it for so long,
And that was the hard part with it, is because I didn't get too much of a consistent heat across the whole cigar with it. It's a little uneven, so just gonna rotate that a little and hopefully it'll even out.
As you said too, with our burn lines, I'm wondering if it's that unevenness of that Cameroon wrapper that's kind of giving it that, you know what I mean? Because there's dimples in it, there's undulations in the wrap. It's not a smooth, you get a Connecticut where it's just aside from some painting.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a lumpy wrap.
In a good way though. It's attractive.
Kind of like me, lumpy but attractive.
That's why we have you.
That's why I'm on the show.
Only your girlfriend can love you.
I get some butteriness from this. I really do.
I get some on the after the smoke as it hits you after you let it go. It's just there's some cocoa.
Yeah.
Some really deep toasted nutty taste to it.
Yeah, you were
It's a
saying.
I do get some on the Robusto. I got some heavy peanut. But I'm getting some nice light sweetness too.
Yeah, there's
Just a good
definitely
clean tobacco sweet.
nuances too of flavors. There's not one thing that you get a toasted nut. You do get a woodsiness to it. You do get a little butteriness, but none of them really stand out. Nicely blended, I would say. It's a good smoke.
It's the name of the Fuente game. we make consistent cigars all the time. And we'll say, in my world, they're not consistently available all the time, but that's unfortunately, actually thinking about it, you know, it's a good thing to talk about. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, but last year they had a whole shipping container of cigars stolen. And it happened,
wow.
I believe it happened to someone else too. So that never helps us in the cigar world either.
No.
We gotta address everybody now. If you have any information, please contact. I don't have a number. To say.
At the number at the bottom of the
Yeah, the
screen.
number at the bottom of Dan.
I was never
Please leave a
convicted.
comment.
I was never convicted.
My hands are not. I'm putting them down here.
So, what's with the hat?
Yeah, what's that? You little
I'm trying to.
Don Carlos
I'm trying to get,
tribute.
yeah,
I
I'm trying to
think
get
I
that
like it.
feeling going
I like it. I
on,
like
you
the
know?
Don Carlos.
I was trying to get that walking through the tobacco fields kind of
Yeah.
thing going on.
Keeping the sun off your skin.
Plus, I didn't have another. Yeah, all of a sudden moved to Michigan with it raining.
Cold today and tomorrow, like near 80s.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like
yeah.
Well, any
75.
place you live where it can be 100 degrees and then go to negative 30, you know, a swing of 130 degrees
Yeah.
is not growing a lot of tobacco here.
Actually, it's interesting.
Speaking of consistent,
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Tobacco does grow naturally in Michigan. They're not like the tall, you know, like 6 foot, like, you know, my height or more
Rain
tobacco
and
plants.
volcanic
but,
soils.
They grow, you know, you can see them out if you're hiking out in the woods. It's a very specific plant. You pretty much can't miss it.
Native tobaccos. Interesting.
Adam, don't bring them into this.
Yeah.
I have some friends who grew tobacco
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
Tobacco.
just for
Tobacco.
That is
for
legal.
personal cigarette use.
Yeah, right. For medicinal.
Yeah.
It
medicinal
is
use.
legal in Michigan. So.
I was a caregiver for tobacco.
I would think you'd be able to grow, you know, I don't know what your yields would be, but I bet you could grow tobacco in Michigan. I mean, you know, we're super humid.
Yeah, they wouldn't be
You
as
just don't get the sun exposure to get big.
No.
You don't have the soil that they have either. You know, you don't have the rain every day, but we do have the humidity.
Well, the one thing I don't get, like last week we talked about it, I don't know if we really dove into it, but you know, the origin of the Connecticut wrapper, it is Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how can they grow, you know, fantastic tobacco for, you know, wrapper leaves in Connecticut. And, we don't have anything here.
I guess
Can't do anything.
I guess we're gonna have to try it. Somebody.
Yeah. I actually
Next summer.
I grew tobacco one time, but I didn't know what to do with it. And you know what I mean? I'm like,
Right.
oh, cool, that's what a tobacco plant looks like, and then it died. You know what I mean? Winter came and killed it. It was interesting though. It didn't get very big. You know, 4.5, 5 foot tall.
Oh, almost taller than me.
Hobbit height.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice any flavor with the cedar stick lighting it? Did you notice that it imparted any flavor onto the cigar as you lit it?
Not necessarily. It's just more of the. I think it's just. It didn't really. I didn't taste anything.
Right.
Afterwards, you get the retroing and feel of the smokes combining and hitting you, but when you're lighting, I really don't see a big difference. I guess at that standpoint, it just comes down to more of a preference. Like
Personal.
some people would rather light their cigar with a match, and some with a normal lighter, which I think would take a little bit too long and cause too much butane flavoring. But the torches, it just, you roast it, you get it lit, and you start enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a purist. I'm doing 2 sticks and a tobacco leaf to light my cigars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Light it with a rolled up tobacco leaf.
Right.
I light my cigars with a lit cigar.
Broke the stick off this tree.
We
Light
got
my cigar.
plenty of tobacco for use out of an acid box.
Oh, yeah.
For you, Adam. Come on.
I know how much you love your acids.
Yeah, you know, my favorite. No,
okay.
I've graduated along from that, Adam. I think it was time to move on.
Well, I don't know. I think next week we're gonna have to make you smoke an acid while we enjoy it.
Is this gonna? Can we start the?
First ash.
No. We gotta start the. You know, people are doing the Smirnoff Ice thing. We gotta do the. You gotta hide
No,
a
White Claw,
blondie.
White
You
Claw.
gotta hide a blondie in a
You gotta
conspicuous space.
You gotta kneel and smoke it.
Kneel and smoke a blondie.
We're gonna make you drink a White Claw while you smoke an acid.
Oh boy.
don't hate on the White Claw. That's gonna go extinct. They're running out. It's a shortage, Dan.
Hey, I'll tell you.
I think we're all with water today. You got a coffee?
I got a coffee. And I will tell you that the coffee kind of does combat the pepperiness a little bit. It's nice. So you already have that kind of flavor, that bitterness in your mouth. So it smooths this out. It makes it creamier. I get a lot of wood tones from it, for sure.
This is a hard one, and we talked about it briefly ahead of time here, and I was thinking about it almost, since we picked the cigar, it's a tough one to pair. Alcohol, beer, wine, anything with it. We talked about the butteriness, and maybe a buttery Chardonnay or something.
Not every cigar is meant to be paired with a drink,
or exactly paired perfectly.
You could do something that could be a palate cleanser to this, trying something sweet with this would take away from the sweetness, anything that I think that you would go light flavors with light flavors, like coffee, which I think goes with almost every cigar. But, this is just black, no cream, no sugar, and it kind of counters the pepperiness. You still get it. It's more of a spice and black pepper, but it does highlight a little bit of the other flavors for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting question to dive into. What do we get? Black pepper, white pepper? There's a
Or red pepper.
distinct. Wow.
Or green,
Stop.
peppercorn.
Stop confusing me.
Work your colors.
You brought it up.
It's kind of easy.
I want to say white. It's almost white peppery kind of. It's not
Yeah.
like it's not like a fresh.
Kind of hits you in the back of the throat.
It's not like that fresh, cracked, table
I
black
just-
pepper.
I do get black pepper from Fuente's always. I get that kind of spicy sharpness. But I'm with you on that. A little bit of that white pepper kind of hits you in the back of the throat and sticks with you a little bit. I go along with that. It's got a nice even burn going.
Everybody, all of us.
Good ash too. Look at that sucker.
Nobody's lost anything yet.
Nope.
Of course, I say something.
It's gonna go in your drink.
You be quiet.
I'm not editing that out.
At least it's only water.
It's kind of a stretch, but does anybody get like a sea air taste from it? Like when you're by the ocean and you get that minerally salt air. Does anybody get that at all? And it might be the coffee as well. But on a retro inhale, I do get a little bit of that. A familiar open water kind of, that mustiness maybe even a little bit. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. I'm not getting anything at the moment.
Well, what?
Are you trying
What
to
about
plan
you
a
with the?
vacation?
Yeah, this is my beach cigar.
You were talking earlier, and I think with the Robusto, it's kind of I don't want to say musky or just a different taste.
Oh, the wrapper, mine had an interesting funk to it. Kind of basement-y.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of, I don't know, maybe, and maybe that's what I'm getting, from a seashore where you have, things that have washed up, not necessarily fish or anything of that nature, kelp or, and it doesn't even have to be salt water. I could see even say fresh water. It has that musty, not quite basement, more of a freshness than that, more of a minerally, but I get that a little bit of that, and as soon as I kind of recognize that, and I think the coffee kind of helps too to combat the other flavors, but I do get a little bit of that musty flavor in a good way.
It's funny how with cigars we associate what would typically be an unpleasant smell or experience with a positive flavor.
Yeah.
Like I've smelled some cigars that smell like a straight up cow farm.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
Barnyard.
Yeah, there's-
it's
Barnyard.
so good.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing. You have it smells like manure. I'm like, yeah.
At that barnyard, like you get that straw, you
There's,
get that soil, you get that.
There's one that is very funky, like it's a mushroomy smell to it.
Mushroomy, yeah, that's
you get
another
very
one.
mushroomy on it.
Or that forest floor, you get like, and it's not one particular thing. It's the soil. It's, you know, pine. It's leaf. It's that
leaves,
it's that decay of whatever, and you know it is made of leaf. So you know that's an obvious one. But yeah, you do get those. You're right. You know, you have a memory of whatever smell that is, and you're
bird
like,
hunting growing up.
yeah,
like
exactly.
walking through
Yeah,
the woods.
yeah.
It's interesting. You're right
On
though.
that, that smoke coming right near me, it smells like a little bit of espresso.
That's my coffee.
No, it's
I do get, and when I smoked one before, I did get a lot of cocoa on it. You know, and
On
it
the
has
Robusto?
that, and it has that cocoa, like that dry, dark cocoa taste to it.
yeah. I got the same thing on the Robusto.
Not chocolatey, you know, it's more of a high cocoa content.
Get some wood.
Like you take cocoa powder and you just put it in your mouth and
It's the
The
cinnamon
cocoa challenge.
Yeah.
cocoa
You have to do a
challenge.
teaspoon of baking, like baking cocoa.
Ugh.
So bitter.
Tastes so good.
It's a good smoke.
You know, I kind of want to step away from this for a minute because I thought about it. I can't really do it. I don't know how well you guys can. I know he can. I want to talk about the retro hail. Ins, outs, how to do it, how not to kill yourself. So I've tried a bunch of ways, and I always end
Start
up
slow.
pretty much killing myself.
You know,
Lighter cigars for sure. I will say that. On the Maduros, it really burns and gives you a heck of an afterburn.
Yeah.
that's how you know it's working.
It's you can tell the huge spice in the Maduro when you do it. When I do it, I typically have the first inhale, let out some, and then
Capture the end. That's how I
and
do it as
then
well.
let it out through the nostrils, and then after just let it over the tongue out, and it really opens up a lot of the senses there, and you get different tastes and flavors, and it alters the cigar quite a bit. But if you're not used to it, don't do it on Maduro. I did that once. I cried for a little bit.
No, it'll light you up.
Yeah.
Same with wine, though.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of butteriness out of these. I really do. And it's not that buttery creaminess you would get from a Connecticut where it's that smooth. It's layered with all the other flavors that we talked about. The pepperiness, that cocoa, that woodsy, that leather. You know, I get all of those flavors, but then an underlying, almost if you would, like a popcorn kind of, but not that fresh. You know, it's
Not
definitely
movie theater
a
popcorn.
down and dirty, you know, flavor of it, especially with the retro.
And I think for this, it's tamed down a little bit coming in this far into it. 'Cause
Starting
I
to
don't,
build.
Yeah, like not as much pepper right now.
Yeah.
Like before it was like, whew, it's kind of overbearing a little bit, and now it's really smoothed out, and I think it's really pulling itself together as
Yeah.
a cigar.
The ash like this just really helps just to cool down a cigar. When you get that cigar where ash is just constantly falling off, 1/4 inch, 6
Getting all
inches
that
falling off.
fresh air
It's
in there.
hot. It's a scientific process with this ash with that the air coming around and through it. It's cooling.
Insulation.
Yeah, it's cooling. It's not getting like just hot.
Yeah.
And
Is that
it's
for you,
sexy.
Retro?
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
It's definitely mild down.
It's a great. I'm
The
in,
spice is mild, though.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
I-
spice is definitely mild down.
It'll
I'm
build
enjoying
a
it
little bit.
more as it's built. I'm enjoying it more.
Yeah, I mean we're about halfway. It's changed what?
It's smoothed off on the pepper and the spice, and I get more of the, I get some more butteriness to it. I get a little more cocoa, and then I got some nutty flavor as I retro, and it just let that over tongue. It just really opens up, and you think of like freshly warmed up peanuts.
Yeah, that peanut, like the like the oil you would get from a peanut. You know what I mean? It has that dark, toasty peanut flavor. I'm following you on that for sure.
Getting a lot more wood personally right now, too.
I feel like this isn't. Will you calm down over there?
Oh my.
Yeah.
Hey, was just the way he said it.
Oh,
You- First down.
bro.
First man down. And I was
First
just
one.
gonna say, it's just this whole hanging on.
You really got a heck of a
I
crew
did
there,
that.
Adam.
Yeah, I dress left.
Depends on the day.
I really found it's only with these, I don't want to say upper end because this isn't really, this is kind of it's mid-level Fuente, I'd say. You get these big ashes on stuff like this. It's not, I don't think you're going to get this on the Chateau lines. You're definitely not going to get it on the lines below that, the Bravest and stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. But Don Carlos, it's always consistent like this. All the Añejo, Hemingways. I mean, I've seen people smoke Hemingways almost all the way down without ashing at all. Short stories, stuff like that.
I got pretty far on the Robusto earlier. I got pretty far, and then all of a sudden she let go.
It's
But
just a testament to construction.
Yeah, good wrap, good rolling.
and they're kind of a tight roll. It's not like it's super loose or anything, so it's a nice tight roll, and it really helps to hold it together.
Well, I don't know if we really talked about it too much, but the draw is.
Oh, the
Nothing
draw is
wrong.
really good
I mean,
too.
we got 4 cigars. If you went to some other brand, some other cigars, you get 1 out of 4. It's going to be tight and plugged and grabbed 4 right out of the box, fresh open box. No problems at all.
Have you guys,
Just enough resistance.
have you guys purged it and see if anything changes?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
he
nice.
has, but
I have.
Yeah, when I
we haven't
first-
lost the ash yet.
When I purged mine, I got a little more of that pepperiness back, and then it started smoothing out again. It really relit that first initial part of the cigar back up.
Yeah, I have not, just because I'm enjoying what's
Yeah.
what's happening with
You're,
it.
you're
So-
trying to hold on to your action.
No, I'm really enjoying it, so I didn't want to ruin what was happening with it. I mean, you purge it, you get that back to that fresh flavor when you first light it, or the first first quarter, burn. So I just haven't.
Now I'm getting some woodsy cedar, a little bit of cedarish.
Is it cedary or is it like an oaky? Because I can kind of see both ways. A different kind of like hardwood kind of
You could be
flavor.
both.
There's definitely cedar, but
It's a mix.
it's
It's almost, it reminds me of kind of like splitting wood, and you got the red oak, and you got some
That
cedar.
fresh wood, and almost with the sweetness of that too. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You
yeah.
get that fresh split wood
Yeah, it's
sap,
like
and
that.
that sweetness.
2 down.
man down.
Struggling.
How about mouthfeel? Some cigars really dry out.
I'm not getting that. It's pretty.
Not
It's
either.
tame.
I'm
In
not either.
the beginning, I did.
Well, the Cameroon sometimes I think has that a little dry tea-ish, but I don't know if the spice does that at all with it. If that's kind of a contributing factor. What'd you just hit there?
I don't know.
He's processing.
It's an enjoyable
No, it's
smoke.
funny though, because you can get that one puff out of an entire cigar that is
Right.
just entirely different.
Yeah.
And it hits you real quick, and then it's gone. And it's hard to place your finger on it.
See, that's when I hit it and I come up with these crazy flavors, and you guys are like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "That hit right there,
Was amazing.
nailed whatever flavor that you had," and it's like, wow.
And sometimes it's a memory trigger too. Like,
Absolutely.
we could have the same
Olfactory.
flavor, but it takes us back to something totally
Yep.
different.
Yeah, like I just had a little bit of a mintiness, like fresh mint. I'm in the woods. It reminds me of my childhood when I was at my grandma's up north here, before I moved up as a kid. And you get that mint, fresh mint, wild mint.
You know
growing
what? I'm
in the woods.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. That it's not sweet.
No, it's
It
not.
has that green flavor.
Earthy.
Yeah.
It's earthy. It's not like buying a bundle of mint at the store. It's earthy, right out of that raw
Like a touch of
dirt.
skunk.
That raw earth flavor.
Yep. Kind of like in the fall when you're like raking leaves and you get that mint and stuff, and you crack that leaf, you get a little bit of the leaf smell and the
Soil.
mint and the earth smells. come
Decaying
through
of
it.
soil. Yep.
It's interesting. I'm not one that, as a kid, to eat dirt or anything, but
Yes, you were.
come on now, don't be telling everyone my secrets.
Well, you got to wonder too, when they're grown, this is a North African Cameroon, right? So, what's the soil content over there? You know what I mean? What is this? What is offering that flavor to that? Minerally, what is that soil content?
What's interesting, I mean, how much the soil the tobacco is grown in impacts it. Because we talked about the U.S. just a little bit ago, and we do Connecticut. I'm sure there's obviously Virginia and that stuff, but that's primarily cigarette tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
They're growing tobacco all over the world. I mean, this is, Africa, Cameroon. They've got, they're
Ecuadorian,
Ecuadorian. They're growing stuff all through Central America, the Caribbean, South America, over in Asia.
Mexico.
Mexico. They kind of only have one.
Right.
See, that
San
smoke,
Andreas.
once you let out, I get very oaky. Like someone just threw a nice oak log on the fire and it's just starting to get up.
Well, that's
That's such
testament
a
to
good
this cigar
smell.
too, is how complex it has become. We started out, it's a good smoke. What can you say about it? And then as we're, half, 3/4 of the way through, you start getting all these crazy flavors from it.
Yeah,
It's been a pleasant surprise. It's a nice smoke.
Something that's interesting about Fuente, and I think to me it's kind of just a Dominican Republic kind of thing, is I don't think I've ever had anything from the DR that's super full. I can't think of any Fuente that's a super full-bodied, just a big old, just beast of a cigar. It doesn't seem to really happen from the Dominican Republic.
not even like on the Maduros, you think?
No, I mean, even when they're like on Añejo Maduros and even like the Chateau Maduros, stuff like that, they're not big powerhouses. They're not.
They're consistent.
They're consistent. I
Yeah.
mean, everything across the board with them is fairly consistent. Everything really. But there's just, I can't think of anything big and bold about Dominican tobacco at all.
And I'm not drawn to Dominican tobacco. Really, it's not my top pick. It's very different. I gotta say, it's kind of complex on my palate. I just don't get like this huge pleasant overness of the Dominican tobacco every time I try different ones. This has been different, very spicy in the beginning, and it really mellowed out. Came out with some really nice earthy notes and everything. So this is different.
It's still present though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just not up front. It's more of a
Well,
background flavor.
yeah, and as it builds, it blends, mixes with the other flavors.
Mm-hmm.
See, thinking about it, so since this is a little out of your wheelhouse, I kind of want to go around the table here. What, not to take away from talking about this cigar, but what, and I want to hear in the comments from our followers as well. I want to hear what's everybody been smoking right now that's just been hitting the spot. There's always, when we smoke as many cigars as we do, there's always one that you just.
You talking like brand or region?
No,
Oh, last
But
man.
I'm cheating. I got mine straight up.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Mine's standing tall.
Yeah, you haven't set it down either.
No.
Comparing lengths.
yeah.
A measuring contest already.
It's the only time you can do it without.
I thought we'd at least get half a dozen of these in before we start measuring things.
Easy.
I mean, my God. No, I want what's been striking with you right now, because I think this was a good revisit for me. I haven't had a Don Carlos in quite a while. Seth and I talked about, and I could probably do these at some point. The Don Carlos Personal Reserve, I had a Shark, all that stuff, and this. I haven't gravitated towards this in a while, and I just feel like I generally don't gravitate towards Fuente. I mean, Dan, what have you been? What's been just hitting the spot lately? I always like to ask that question. I want comments. I want to know what. I want someone to say, hey, this has been just hitting it for me. Smoke this, and I want to smoke it.
So
And see
I have a follower that's on my Instagram, and I one day did a live. I was going to a job, and he turned me over to the Perdomo Lot 23, and it's a Nicaraguan. And I tell you what, that every single hit, you just sit back and go, wow.
Yeah.
Like, where did this flavor profile come from? The secondary cigar I would say is the Monte Cristo's Nicaraguan series. fantastic cigar. A lot of flavor in it. A lot of cocoa-ness to it. It's just a really good cigar, and it's more so because I would say it's Nicaraguan series is more my flavoring of the tobacco leaves industry part, is I like the Nicaraguan tobacco. So that's
now we talked about this. You were doing you said you favored the Lot 23, the natural, over the Maduro.
Yes, the Maduro. It didn't really hit me with a ton of different notes. It was very
One-dimensional all the way through.
yeah, it was very one-dimensional. But when that Lot 23, the natural, was just like, what in the world? And I had to literally look it up and go, okay, I got these notes, but what the heck?
What am I tasting?
Because they're so good. So I'm looking at it, and there's a lot of really cool flavorings to it. And when it hits your palate, it's like zesty orange peel and all these different nuances of the cocoa-ness. I'm like, this is incredible. It was a really good cigar, really enjoyable. And I turned that guy onto the Nicaraguan series of Monte Cristo. Same, he was just like, wow, this is amazing. So I definitely draw towards those. It definitely has some huge palate flavors.
And as this builds, I'm getting a ton of cocoa on this. Just
This is-
cocoa.
You know, most everything, and I always try to do a little bit of reading on this stuff, and almost everybody across the board says sweetness. There's sweetness. I get it. We all get it. It's tough to, again,
It's
we
a
talked about the
subtle
pepper.
sweetness.
It is.
It's counteracted by that pepperiness.
It's not
for sure.
forefront. It's not right up front with it. It's just it's lingering there. It's there.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can taste it. But what's been hitting it for you lately?
You know, my go-to is the CLE Corojo Rab. That's just my baby. You know, I mean, if I want to smoke something, you know that I just know it's gonna hit the spot no matter what. Morning coffee, afternoon, working in the yard, a nice evening smoke. It's great. The other one that I've really been enjoying is the Fratello's. You know, that little piccolo it's just a nice smoke. You know, has a ton of flavor, has a nice raisiny molasses kind of note to it. Very approachable, very easy smoke, very consistent. Those have been the two that I've really enjoyed. That whole Fratello line has just really been knocking my socks
You
off.
jumped in. I haven't done it yet, but that
The space
Omar
pack.
came out with that space pack
Yeah.
this year with nice little 4 cigars.
And they're good. They're all very similar. I find that they all have a very similar flavor profile, but you know, each one has kind of really been interesting. You know, I've gotten some maple notes from the Sabello one, that Arlequin one, very mild and medium. Very nice smokes, you know, but enough body and enough flavor in there that keeps me interested in them, for sure. What about you, Seth? What have you been smoking lately?
Oh God, I try to switch it up a lot, but I mean, I always favor Nicaraguan Maduros. It's my go-to. I love the La Bijou. It's one of my faves.
Great smoke.
That was a good smoke.
But recently I've been hooked on again the Last Call Habanos.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Nice, short, just really, really good flavor. It hits the spot. I haven't paid a lot of attention to them as far as sitting down and really critiquing, but after a shift, you sit down, light one up. It's the perfect way to wrap up a night.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's really nice right now.
Yeah, it's just
Not
really
to take away from the question, but
No.
I just got some really nice flavors.
Everybody,
It
we're
makes me
a
want to have a
little,
bonfire.
and we're a little
Like
low,
the smoke as it hits you, you're like, oh, it's like a bonfire now. I
a
wanna
little,
have a
little
bonfire.
over halfway. Not to say the first half was bad, but I think we're really just it's opening up in the second half of the cigar.
Yeah, I
it's-
purged once, and I tell you what, it really brought all those flavors back. I'm going, you know, you start at the beginning, and it starts with that pepperiness, the woodsy notes, everything you're getting, and then of course my ash fell, and then I purged, and then now I'm going through that whole process all over again, almost even a little better because it's built.
Yeah, it's smooth. You get some. I'm getting because I think it's more so because of ash and everything building together. I'm getting more of the earthy, minty flavors to it. Some pepper mixed into it. It's just like a weird mix in the frying pan taste, but it's smooth.
Just the goulash mix.
Yeah, it's like everything in there.
Grandma's goulash.
What are you into
I've
lately?
not had goulash in forever.
Neither have I.
What have you been smoking lately there,
You know,
Don Carlos?
A couple. Get ready. No, you know, yesterday I've got a little collection going home. I decided I wanted to change it up and pulled out a El Rey del Mundo Cuban, just a change of pace. So those are always, you know, I go to the Cubans just when I'm looking for something different that I don't smoke every day. You know, it's always a nice change of pace, and I'm always, you know, because of what it used to be for me, I'm on the same CLE Corojo train as you.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
just a fabulous cigar. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised by this one, gentlemen. It's been a nice little ride with this cigar.
So we talked on the last one, like the wrap and stuff like that, the band and stuff. I like the box. It's very like
Classic.
classic. It almost looks like an actual humidor box you put your cigars in
Yeah.
to store. It's such a good look on it. The bands obviously are just look.
Has the crest, has the gold medals, has the sun, you know, beams coming off from it.
You know, people always overlook these things, but so many of these have so much detail. You know, I've heard on a lot of these different cigars, you know, being able to talk with a lot of the people in the companies directly, you know, they all have all the medals on here and everything. They have meanings. You know, I don't specifically remember what these are, but actually looking at it, that looks like the little, on the right side, that little clock looks like the Opus X Lost City
Hands of Time.
yeah, that kind of deal. But they all have stories that people tend to overlook, and they peel them off, chuck them in the ashtray. You don't even look at them, the work that goes into these, you know.
Yeah, and thousands of
Yeah.
those bands.
Which I still have.
Yeah. No, but you know, the other side of the thing is, you know, obviously we only smoke handmade cigars. Someone puts this on.
Yeah.
It's not a machine putting this on.
Yeah.
Thankfully, with something like this, they don't get a little, you know,
Heavy-handed with the
they
glue.
don't get heavy-handed on the
Some
glue.
of them do.
Some of them do, and you try and peel it off, and you just end up ripping a hole in your cigar. That's why some people peel them off right away. I like to wait till I get close, let the heat of the cigar warm up the glue a little bit, so you can
So you're not tearing it up.
yeah, I'll call it damage control at least at that point.
Let's see if I can set it down.
You know, we've talked about all these different aspects, and you know, when I smoke a cigar, it's an entire experience from going into a humidor and picking them out from all the different facings, the artwork on the ring, the packaging of the boxes, the color shade, makeup of the wrap, whether it's a perfecto, whether it's a short, whether it's a Robusto, a box press. You know, it all lends to the experience, I believe, and I feel that when you smoke a cigar, you know, when I do have a little imperfection in that, you know, it bugs me a little bit. You know, a cigar that is consistent and that has all those factors, and that you're not dealing with too much glue on the ring, you know, that the ring won't come off, you know, the lighting, the burn. You know, if I can just enjoy a smoke all the way through, it's a great experience for me.
This whole process is all an experience. Always, everything.
The
And when
lighting
you-
of it.
Everything. That what you choose to cut, what you do, how you light it.
The
it's
type
all
of cut, what you
where-
light it with,
where-
as Dan
where you
showed
are,
earlier.
what you're doing. You know,
Yeah.
this is such a, you know, the thing about cigars that's just the best is, you know, it's like you know what, I'm gonna unwind for a minute. I'm gonna take an hour and a half. I'm gonna sit in a comfortable chair at a comfortable table, my favorite local place. I'm gonna take an hour, just unwind. It's an hour, just not even think about it.
Can be therapeutic.
Yeah,
it
it's
really almost is. You grab one of your favorites, sit down, and you're just like, this is perfect.
It's an experience.
You know, when you were talking about it, I know I try not to let it get under my skin too much when there's an imperfection, because it is ultimately a handmade product.
It's a natural thing.
And it happens. You know, I would say generally one out of a box is just.
Well, what speaks to the quality too, when you have a whole box and go through all of them, and everyone is consistent, that you had multiple people rolling these, multiple people, you know, so many different hands are touching these, and where they've come from, you know, where they come from and travel to here, and that they're, you know, it's a testament to the history and the people that do make these cigars for us. You know, the consistency and quality.
That's an
is great.
interesting question. I don't remember if Dan was here. I know you were here, so you can't answer. I know you weren't here. I may have told you before, but how many hands do you think, pairs of hands, touch a cigar?
Oh, geez.
How many pairs of hands?
I bet it'd be 50.
Man, it depends on, I guess it would depend on the size of the company and the farm and what they're producing, but I would imagine probably 50 to 60.
Truly, the answer is over 200 pairs of hands touch a cigar. From planting to growing to caring for, picking,
Hanging, fermenting,
aging, fermenting,
rolling.
you know, sorting the tobaccos, rolling the cigars, putting them in the cello, putting the bands
Shipping.
on, putting them in the boxes, sealing. I mean, it's ridiculous how many hands touch these things.
Well, if you're a germaphobe, that might bug you. Just kidding.
Well, it was a leaf at one time, so, you know,
How
out
many
in the
bugs
field.
have touched? No, I'm just kidding.
You know,
Let's
that's,
really dive into this.
it is. That almost is something worth diving into. You know, back when you talked last time about the '90s boom, they used to have such bad problem with tobacco beetles.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate now because they pretty much eradicated that. It still happens. There's still companies out there. This company is actually one I don't think that they essentially freeze them before they send them out. A lot of companies now, they take them and they freeze them so that way it can the larvae, the eggs die. You know, they're in there. They're bound to be something like that in here.
What's a
That's what
natural
that flavor
product?
was.
Larvae.
And we're so fortunate now, you know.
Delicious.
They're using products on the tobacco when they're growing it, but everything they use is natural. They're not spraying it, you know.
No chemicals.
Nothing against, we might get sued for this. They're not using Monsanto, and they're not spraying it down with.
Well, I'm not
chemicals.
saying
We're
about
done.
this.
We're done now.
No, and I think that's really a nice piece about it is that it's 100% absolutely natural tobacco. There is no byproducts mixed into it. There is no chemicals mixed into it. That's gonna cause a lot of issues that we see with tobacco-related matters.
Yeah, and there's not a machine spitting these things out. Now, I will say, I've had a few boxes of, they do it in Cuba. They have machines that make like little. They're not even Corona sized, but
Cigarellos.
No, not even that small. They're like maybe a little bigger than like a half Corona size, and they're machine made, and most of the time, hell of a bargain when you're buying them, and for the golf course, stuff like that, they're fantastic.
Yeah, the fish and golf course cigar.
Yeah, I mean they still have great flavor. They're still using good tobacco, but that's really one of the only places I can think of where they really do the whole machine-made thing is Cuba with the small. Obviously, they're not rolling. They're not having a machine make a Churchill. But some of these smaller Romeos and even I think even some of the smaller El Rey de Muna, stuff like that, they're made by a machine.
Well, very pleasant smoke, gentlemen.
Yeah, I think we wrap this up. I think next week we move on to the next round.
What do you think?
We're not gonna get
medium or?
I think medium plus full. I want to hear again if anybody has recommendations out there. We obviously
something you want us to try.
We put our heads together and we put our cigar minds together and and try to pick something good, you know.
Oh.
Party
It was a
foul.
It was the poor leaning tower
Well, see, that's
of ash.
That's a good example. Though. But you could pick. I bet you could pick that up and put it in the ashtray. Look at that.
Yeah.
And it's still
It's
intact.
it hit that piece of cedar, you can pick it up again. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's been different. I've never gotten that far on that long on an ash.
See, I've had 2 cigars. I went the entire cigar without ash. One, Bolivar Bellicoso Fino from Cuba. Second, it was this year when I was on Vegas for the IPCPR. I did one of their, you can only get it at Casa Fuente lounges. It was one of the Casa Fuentes. It was, generally, they are a little more expensive. I tend to gravitate toward like the double Corona. It was more like I don't even know, a Toro sized, or it may have even been an Opus. I don't remember what I grabbed, but all the way. It's
Yeah, I've nubbed a couple with ash intact.
So,
Wow.
speaking of that, what's the price point on these?
Don Carlos, you're looking a little bit more. Obviously, again, we're in Michigan. We don't have that 50 cents cap on the excise tax. We're looking anywhere. I would say low to mid-ish teens is generally
$11,
what I'm
$12.
seeing. Obviously, I'm speaking purely of just Don Carlos. I'm not speaking of,
All the Fuentes.
well, I'm not speaking of like the Don Carlos Personal Reserve or the Don Carlos Eye of the Shark. I'm speaking purely, Don Carlos, Robusto, Double Robusto, number 2, Bellicoso, that stuff. Obviously, the Eye of the Shark and the Personal Reserve can get a little more up there depending, but it's not wild. We were in the last week. We were in the
$7 range.
$7 to $10 range, and now we're jumping. I think in the 12. I'd say maybe 16. I think the number 2 might be the most expensive.
Nice. This has been a little bit different. Definitely some crazy complex notes in the beginning, peppery, complex to my palate, and that really smoothed off, and it was very earthy, and to me it's very like minty and oakish. That's what I'm getting now further into this. It's reminds me of a bonfire, and it's the perfect time of year to have one too.
I recommend it.
How's that? Before we wrap things up, how's that coffee doing? Since we all did water, is it still?
Yeah, I tell
still
you
doing
what.
the same thing?
Yeah, I tell you what. That coffee really combats that. Just a black coffee with a good French roast really combats the the pepperiness of it. That spice.
Thunk.
Sounds like you dropped a rock in there.
Yeah, it's nice. I think coffee goes with almost every cigar, though.
So
It's kind of a cheat.
that was one of the things we were looking at before we did this. What could we pair with it? And it was more on a little bit more difficult side to pair like a style drink with it. What were some of the readings that we found on that?
Generally, when you're looking up stuff like this, it just talks about the cigar. They don't really dive into drink pairings. And, it can be tough. There's a lot of most of the time I find people just truthfully they don't care. People smoke what they want to smoke. They drink what they want to drink. Like people like a good IPA. IPAs are very challenging to put with cigars. There's some Connecticut. Honestly, I've had some Connecticut's that pair with some of the more mild, fractional kind of all day kind of IPAs. The session stuff that's a little lower IBU.
Well, you get all that hop flavor in there and that bitterness.
I think it ruins your taste buds a little bit. It really, it just hits that and just scorches them and you're done.
Something like this too is medium as this is. It is fairly complex, and you would naturally try and pair something with that pepperiness, but I think something delicate and as far as we've kind of come up with flavor profiles, it's fairly complex. Something complex, single malt Scotch, something that has a little bite but could hold up to it,
Without stealing the show.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you do end up getting into that realm where, now you're competing with flavors,
We've talked about it before. It's interesting with cigars because you can do, a smoky cigar, a peppery cigar, something like that, with like, you know, an ILA Scotch to complement that peppery. And then there's the reverse of that, where you get something to drink that's completely parallel opposite of what you have in the cigar. And both sides, they work. They do. You're either trying to complement on the one flavor, or you're trying to almost combat it a little bit.
With this, I would do, you know, an Islay, but I would go lighter. I would do that Kilchoman.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big peep bomb. My first,
Still delicate.
Yeah, my first thought was maybe, you know, because it's not super peaty like a Lagavulin, like a nice 16.
Yeah.
It's not like Talisker, which, you know, near and dear to my heart, super peaty, super smoky. Even Ardbeg, super peaty. You know, that the Kilchoman's a good one, and I really think Lagavulin, and maybe not the 16, maybe like a distiller is a little bit lighter.
Something a little more delicate. You know, you get into those big Islays, that big smoky, peaty. I think that might beat this up.
I think that's, it's combative in the wrong way.
Yep. I don't think you would get the flavor profiles that we've gotten with a clear palate with water.
It'd be interesting to try something to complement the sweetness of this, because it's there, but it's so small in comparison to all, you know, the other. I think primarily the biggest flavor we're getting is that peppery.
Oh, 100%.
Well, something with the sweetness in this, you know, like, you know, a sweeter drink, you lose the sweetness. So then you're left with
it's like
that cocoa.
To me, my desire for this is like I want to find something to accentuate that a little bit, bring that out a little bit more. And it's tough. I can't think.
You
of
can't always pair a cigar.
No,
I'm telling you, not every cigar is made to be paired with something. It's just, you know.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it stands on its own, and you don't have to, you know.
It's kind of like when you get a good steak, you don't need that steak sauce.
Yeah.
You should never need steak sauce.
Well, if it's
Yeah,
prepared
sometimes.
properly. Sometimes you need the steak sauce to kind of cover up whatever's in there.
Well, and that does just, it masks it, you know, and I think a lot of drinks with this, I don't think you would get the profiles that we've
mask
gotten.
these flavors that hide them instead of accentuating that flavor.
Something big and sweet with this, you won't get the sweetness from it, and it's a very light, delicate sweetness all
What
the way
about one
through
of
it.
my brain comes to sweetness, you know, not like the super sweet stuff, but more the mild, like a rum. Kind of mild sweetness, some of that aged stuff, you know, with some of those, you know, a little bit more complex, you know, not those huge sweet rums, you know.
Sure.
I think it maybe could accentuate that a little bit because, you know, you can get a little spiciness off of some of the aged rum as opposed to, you know, near and dear to our hearts, the Bumbu, sweet.
Somebody knows this cigar, somebody has actually made a pairing with it, we'd like to hear about it.
I want to know. I want to know.
Did you say accentuate?
Accentuate. Yeah.
Accentuate.
I'm trying to use my vocabulary.
I got him a word of the day calendar. that was on.
Yeah, it's got
The same one I got?
It
Or?
was Sunday. No, yours is completely different.
Yeah, mine is for like adults. Yours is for third grade.
Yours is for beginners.
You
Yeah.
know, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I think
Die.
next week we go the media plus full realm, and then after that I think we cover the bases. Maybe jump into something completely different after that. But
Or we could revisit your beginner stage and do an acid.
I'm making you guys smoke it. I'm gonna hide one, and you have to smoke it.
You just got burned by acid.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw a different band on it. Nothing against acid.
No, it's
there's
actually acids are they have their own, and those 20 in the plush aren't too bad.
It's one of those things we love to poke fun at it. Us as the true cigar smokers. It's not to say that it isn't, but acid, like the Blondie stuff like that, it's a great beginning cigar for people. It takes you from that cigars aren't approachable to wow, that's actually really nice. And then we've seen it.
It's a time and a place for it.
You get them started on the acid.
Yeah.
They start going. Well, hey, what's next?
Yep.
And maybe you pick a little bit darker infused cigar, some a little more body, and then you can just kind of start to creep into the Connecticut realm. And then once they get there, then they start to go, hey, what's next?
Tell you what, a nice Cuba in that acid line for a dessert cigar is fantastic.
That was, and for me, it was I never smoked Blondies. It was always Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that much more. you know, they came out with to celebrate 20 years. You mentioned that Acid 20. Nice dark wrapper on that. That to me leans more towards that deadwood tobacco realm instead of that. You know, with the blondies,
Deep molasses.
the blondies, the only thing that just strikes me negative against those is just the floral of it.
Well, it definitely has that incense tone
it's
to it.
a little bit. The 20 doesn't have that. I haven't had a plush yet. I want to because I think
I like the 20s.
in the Acid line that plush is I think the darkest wrapper they use. I think that's the San Andreas Maduro that they put on that dark big, and then obviously the infusion sweetness.
There's definitely a time and a place for all those, you know, infused cigars.
There is,
you know.
I
It's a
can't.
nice change of pace too.
It is.
Yeah.
I throw something in every once in a while just to change a
Dessert
pace.
cigar, just to mix it up.
I find
Just like
myself
the-
just getting bored.
It's just like the Islas. I really go to them as kind of a very good
Yeah.
dessert style cigar to kind of end the night.
Or the Drew Estates tobacco,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real
coffee
nice.
infused.
the nub essence.
Yeah, the nuance. It's
Yeah.
a fantastic one, but it is. It's a, you know, for us that we smoke a lot of cigars. It's not out of our wheelhouse, but it's not.
It's not an everyday.
No. And for me, I tend to now, I throw a dead one in every once in a while just to change it up. Because like for me, just even doing acid again, it's too sweet. It's just too much sweetness. I remember after getting heavily into cigars, trying to jump back to actually like a Corona-sized Tabac Special, and I'm just like, whoo, that's a lot of sweetness.
Yep.
Lot of sweetness.
Time and a place.
Time and place.
For sure. All right. I think this has been good. This
Yeah.
is a lot of good conversation we had here. A lot of complex notes on the palate. And really trying to figure out maybe even our next cigar and what we're going to go with. So I think we
Any comments? Leave below.
absolutely leave your comments. We want you guys to give us insight on what your thoughts are on the cigar. Maybe something you guys have paired with it that you found to be very enjoyable. Also, if you have any cigar suggestions and things of that nature, please let us know. We'd like to
Love to hear from you.
love to hear from you, and definitely.
Yeah, and if you disagree with us, we want to hear. We want to know why you disagree with our flavor.
And let us know what hat Alex should wear next week.
Yeah, I'm buying a top hat, like Abraham Lincoln style.
Yeah.
Stovepipe.
Flappy top, you know.
It's gonna get bigger every week.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Wow, it's touching the ceiling this week. Huh. So, all right,
Yeah, let's finish this up and
wrap it up.
next
All
week.
right. See you guys next week.